Good morning, YouTube, and how you doing? This is J Wolf, and I have got a super interesting video for you guys today. It's kind of a response to HBO's documentary, and if you already don't know who I'm talking about by saying that, Michael Jackson. The HBO documentary about Michael Jackson, accusing him yet again of more child abuse accusations. I guess with the Me Too movement and all this feminist stuff, we just should accept these men's words, right? He should have to prove himself. It's his obligation to prove himself, even though he's dead, right? And I mean, HBO's not cashing in on all the money coming from this upheaval against Michael Jackson's good name again. But no, you know what? I'm serious. You know, these men, these poor boys, these poor, horrible things they went through. I mean, it's not like these men have anything to gain from accusing Michael Jackson of this. They're not gaining publicity. They're not getting money. They're not getting royalties from the documentary. I mean, none of these things are going on that effectively would help them. And it's not like there was anybody who ever gave an interview about Michael Jackson who was a friend of his, who was a young man who had nothing to gain at all from accusing him of anything. Oh, wait a minute. There was. His name was Macaulay Culkin. It was back in 2004, I believe, when he gave an interview with Larry King. The second time all these things happened. As a matter of fact, I have an excerpt right here from it. Let's see what he says. Surely he'll probably say that Michael Jackson was a horrible person too and did all these things as well.
We have to cover it, so let's ask about it. What's the relationship that you had with Michael Jackson?
Had or have? I mean, it's kind of, you know, whatever.
Let's go with had.
Listen, no, he's a good friend of mine, and he still is. I mean, everything that's going on, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation for everyone involved, and, you know,
How did you first get to meet him?
I first met him, he kind of called me randomly, like out of the blue. He just kind of like, hi. It's Michael. And I was like, hey. And the thing is,
This is after Home Alone?
This is after Home Alone. I actually had met him before I was doing Nutcracker at Lincoln Center. I was playing Fritz, and he came backstage one day, and I actually met him very briefly. And he kind of recognized me because it was after I'd done Uncle Buck, and so he kind of mentioned something. And then he calls me up kind of out of the blue, and it's kind of just this weird random thing. And he was like, why don't you come over to my house? And the thing is, I didn't react to him the way most people did. Most people like, Michael Jackson. And, you know, I mean, he was a god to people. And to me, he was, you know, I knew he was a pop singer, but beyond that, you know, I wasn't one of the fans. I think that's one of the reasons why we connected, was the fact that, you know, believe me, I call him a jerk all the time. I call him a fathead and this and that, you know, and he gets it.
Too?
Yeah, no, we all did. I mean, he was, you know, a family friend.
What happened at the house? That's what all these things are.
You know, that's what's so weird, you know.
What did happen?
Nothing happened, you know. I mean, nothing really. I mean, we played video games, you know. We you know, played it at some amusement park. Well, the thing is with that whole thing is that, you know, they go, oh, you slept in the same bedroom as him. It's like, I don't think you understand. Michael Jackson's bedroom is 2 stories. And it has like 3 bathrooms and this and that. So when I slept in his bedroom, yeah, but you have to understand the whole scenario. And the thing is with Michael is that he's not very good at explaining himself, and he never really has been, because he's not a very social person. I mean, you're talking about someone who's been sheltered and sheltering himself also for the last like 30 years, or, you know, and so he's not very good at communicating to people and not very good at conveying what he's actually trying to say to you. And so when he says something like that, you know, people, you know, he doesn't quite understand why people react the way that they do.
Why do you think he likes young people so
It's because it's the same reason why he liked me, was the fact that I didn't care who he was. That was the thing. I talked to him like he was a normal human being. And that's what, and kids do that to him, because he's not, I mean, he's Michael Jackson, the pop singer, but he's not the god of, you know, the king of pop or anything like that. He's just, you know, a guy who's actually very kid-like himself and wants to go out there and wants to play video games with you.
Did your parents encourage it?
They weren't against it. You know, it wasn't like they encouraged it or like pushing me upon it. It was just kind of like I wanted to hang out with him, and they were fine with it.
So what do you make of what he's going through now?
Like I said, it's unfortunate, and you know, it's a circus right now.
You think it's a bad rap?
You know, I think so. Yeah. I mean, you know, listen. Like, look what happened the first time. The first time this happened to him. You know, if someone had done something like that to my kid, I wouldn't just settle for some money. You know, I'd make sure the guy was in jail. You know, and it just really goes to show. I mean, as soon as, you know, they got the money and they ran. I mean, that's really what happened the first time. And so, you know, I don't know. It's a little crazy, and I kind of have taken a step back from the whole thing because it is a bit of a circus. And you know, if the same thing was happening to me, I wouldn't want to drag him into it, and vice versa. So I try my best to keep a distance from it, but like I said, he's still a friend of mine.
Be a character witness? Would you appear?
I guess so, but I probably not. I mean, like I said, it's crazy, and I don't really want to be a part of it, you know?
Do you like him?
I like him, and he's a friend of mine. I'm not saying I wouldn't do something like that. It just hasn't been brought up to me, and I don't think he'd want me to either. Just because, like I said, if the same thing was happening to me, I wouldn't want him.
What
to be
reaction has happened to you from all of this?
What do you mean?
I mean, people. How do people inquire of you a lot about it?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, people always have like their opinions, and they always, it's funny. I mean, people always talk to me about him because, I'm one of these people who will tell you anything about my life, really, to get me going, And so, yeah, I mean, I freely and openly talk about him and stuff like that. But overall, he's just a good friend of mine.
But you wish him well.
Yes, of course I do.
What got you?
All right. Sorry about that. So, as you can see, I mean, Macaulay Culkin, who, celebrity, doesn't have a lot to gain from Michael Jackson. I'm not trying to sue him, not trying to get money from him. Made a very interesting point there. I mean, if somebody did that to my kid, I don't even know if I'd care about going through the law, honestly. I'd want some blood or something, man. Somebody touched my kid. What's the Bible say about that? It's better for a millstone to be tied around their neck and cast into the deepest part of the ocean. But, I'll take some money and run? No, thank you. I'd want to see that man behind bars. And if I didn't get a prosecution, I would be going, trying to repeal it. I would be fighting it till my grave to get that man. If I really thought he hurt my child, I wouldn't just take some money and run. And I think I wholeheartedly agree with Macaulay Culkin on that. But you know what? Maybe Macaulay Culkin's just an asshole. Maybe he really, had a crush on Michael or something. I don't know. And wanted to keep it going, I guess, into his adulthood. I don't know. Oh, wait. I guess Michael's only interested in kids, so how would that work? Because Macaulay Culkin was a man then. I don't know. All right. Something else I wanted to pull up. It's an excerpt on... where did I get this? It's from Slate.com, delivered by Google. That's what it says up there. I'm not going to put the link in. You can look it up if you want to. It pretty much came up right away when I was looking it up. Yeah, it's just a little excerpt from here. It's talking about how Jordan Shadler met Jackson in 1992, and it goes on to talk about that for a minute. And then it talks about how Shadler met with Jackson after a musician's car broke down in Los Angeles. Jackson's contacted... I'm sorry. This is the wrong one. I'm such a dum-dum. I'm pulling the wrong thing. It's Leaving Neverland. Excuse me. It's from nytimes.com, newyorktimes.com. But it's from nytimes.com, and that's delivered by Google, so that's because I'm using that search engine. It says, the Neverland Ranch haunts the documentary. Okay. So, it talks about Robinson and Safechuck. I knew that name looked wrong before. That was from the last case in the 90s when I was looking that up. I'm very sorry about that. But in this excerpt, it says, the Neverland Ranch was Jackson's California compound that included an arcade, an amusement park, an assortment of exotic animals, and training stations. It was the perfect playground for children. And in the documentary, it is also portrayed as a perfect place to keep children apart from their parents. Okay. It goes on to say, Robinson and Safechuck's family were offered rooms in a guest house, which was separate from the main house, where the boys would each stay with Jackson. Wade, Robinson's mother, Joy, recounts that she got the sense during one long visit that her son and Jackson were avoiding her. And in such a big place, that was easy to do. She said she spent a lot of time alone and with Jackson's chimpanzees. Interesting. Wait a minute. They just buried the lead there. Hold on. Go back. Wade, Robinson, the families were offered rooms in a guest house, which was separate from the main house, where the boys would each stay with Jackson. Why did these parents move in with some rich, odd celebrity, and I love Michael Jackson, but he is a very odd man, move into a house separated from his house on a bunch of acreage and let their boys move in with him? What? Now, if this is really true, that raises some red flags for me. And why would these parents even allow their children to do that? I mean, the first time he was like, oh, they're going to be staying up here with me. I'll be like, oh, I'd come over and spend the night too, man. We'll have a big old sleepover. I'm a big kid too. I'm not going to let my kids go spend the night with some strange dude without me. I don't care how much I like them or like that guy or trust my kids to talk to me, especially at these younger ages they say they were. That's a bit ridiculous in and of itself, but, forget it. It's perfectly okay that that they did that, and nobody's going to bring up that part. And these boys are going to recount. Now, I won't read any more from this because the rest of this is very disturbing. What these boys say Michael Jackson supposedly done to them. And, I mean, I think anybody who has common sense knows that this is just a ploy for money. And because of the Me Too movement and feminazis and this gynocentric world we live in right now, you could just at any time come up and claim somebody did something to you. And it's their obligation to now prove they didn't. And instead of leaving Michael Jackson, his good memory, his family, his estate alone, these parasites come out of the woodworks, and yes, HBO, being one of them, comes out of the woodworks attacking his character to make a quick buck. You know what's funny? It's weird. Is I like to look at patterns. And 94, 2005, 2018. That's almost a decade apart each time. It's like every 30 years people need to make a quick 20, 30 million off of Michael Jackson because they don't know how to make their own gosh darn money. But that's okay because that's the world we live in today. You know what bugs me the most is, even if Michael Jackson was a pedophile, even if he was these horrible things that they make him out to be in this documentary, and a complete one-sided slamathon against his good name, not even anything really trying to dispute it at all in the documentary. Almost like when they try to do something, it's like rolling your eyes that, yeah, this is what they said. That's very interesting. But what bugs me the most is Michael Jackson has all this money. He could buy off people. He could give them enough money that they're going to just, basically, they sold their kids' integrity by running away in 94, and saying, oh, we'll just take the money, forget our kid, and then they go along this track of he's constantly hurting these children, and now this is 5 men total or 5 boys total he supposedly has done this with. Now, if he would go through all this trouble, these elaborate schemes, like in the excerpt I was reading from the documentary, it talks about he had all these wires and bells set up so that he'd know if one of the parents or someone came in, supposedly, right? Okay, if he's going to go through all this trouble, pay families off to live apart from their kids, that which should have been sending red flags up in the first place. If he's going to be doing all this, why not just go to, I don't know, Thailand? Child sex over there, I think, is like 38%. And that's commercial child sex over there. They just basically allow it. It's supposed to be internationally illegal, but they don't do a damn thing about it. I've watched some pretty good documentaries about that. And those poor children are hurt over there. They are actually hurt. It's disgusting the way they treat kids over in that country. How about Brazil? How about Mexico, where you can buy a ticket, and a ticket is a condom for $20, and the girls in some of these brothels don't get over 16 years old. Now, in these countries with these child sex, 80% is women. That means 20% of it is boys. Why would Michael Jackson, a rich public figure, go through all the trouble to take these boys and do these things to these few boys when he could go to Thailand, he could go to Central America, he could go to India, many different continents and countries that pretty much offer child sex with really no repercussion. But in this gynocentric gynocracy that has made itself self-evident in America and Western countries. Women can do and say whatever they want so much that men are becoming very feminine and saying the same thing and utilizing themselves when they were younger to be able to join in this type of Me Too movement, and it sickens me. It truly does. Information: Michael Jackson was a legend. He was a hip-hop and rock icon. He was a genre straddler, excuse me. He made the soundtrack of the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. He's an amazing artist. His family have had their own family issues, but in the end are all fairly successful people. Bottom line is, there's no proof, and never has been any proof, that he was, ever has been, a child abuser or pedophile. He beat his case. He was declared innocent, and we live in America. And until he's proven guilty, all I see him as is a pop legend, an icon, and an amazing humanitarian. Thank you very much for listening to my video. I hope you like and subscribe. God bless. And if you'd like to support what I'm doing here, please go to my Patreon page. That's patreon.com/jwolf35. Thank you guys so much, and God bless.